Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Klein, and I am really excited to talk to you about a topic that's really important to me on how to actually integrate and start teaching with our SmartClass HUB. There will be someone who is answering questions for you as you're listening in, and if something pops up, please go ahead and reach out, and someone from our Robotel support team will be live answering those questions for you so that I can focus on just really showing you the ins and outs of what it would take or how to actually go and take what you've done with your own curriculum and start using it in our platform. Whether you're looking at this because of the current circumstances that we're all up against as teachers, or this is something that you've been wondering how to use and do with distance learning, or getting your students to do more activities at home with language learning, this is a great opportunity and this is a wonderful platform. So let's hop right to it. I hope to see some of those questions popping up, and I won't take any of more of your time than what's needed. So let's get to it. So start teaching with SmartClass HUB. The key point of this is that this platform can be used from any device, anywhere, at any time. And I think that's really important because when I was a teacher looking for a solution to help my students, I knew that my district would not have some sort of a stationary lab that we could use. So it needed to be anywhere. It had to be my classroom. In this case, it needs to be from our own living rooms or our kitchens. But the other main aspect was that it could be any device. It didn't have to be a device given to the students by the school or in the school. It could be literally a device that a student has, whether it's a computer, an iPad, or their phone. So this really is a solution that fits all needs. And then, of course, anytime, with the students not necessarily sitting in your classroom right now, that anytime is such a key factor. So a little bit about myself and why I am the one that's here presenting to you today on this topic. From 2004 to 2016, I was a high school German teacher, and I had studied high school teaching, but I also had a degree in K through 12 second language pedagogy. And I think that aspect for me was something that I always was passionate about, that idea of second language acquisition and how do we really help our students learn a language and become fluent in a language and retain a language. So in 2012, I really started reflecting on where my students were, especially when some of my students would come back and talk to me after leaving high school and telling me how much German they had forgotten. It was something that didn't sit well with me, because I knew that a language should be something that they're able to communicate in. I mean, it opens doors for them. So I wanted this to be something that really stuck with my students. So I started looking for a solution to really help my students focus on that active part of language learning and not just the passive part, so that the more they spoke, the more active they were with their language, the better chance they had in actually retaining it and being able to continue using the active side of the language. So in 2014, I wrote a grant to receive this Robotel platform that I'll be showcasing for you today. And I started using it inside my classroom and then also outside of my classroom for my students to be working on at home to do homework instead of using their workbooks. So a lot of great things came from my students. Instead of them writing about what they ate for dinner, being able to explain what they ate for dinner using their active language of speaking. So in 2016, I was asked to join the Robotel team as a trainer for teachers around the world to actually start using this platform. And then I also initiated our content project of our Let's Talk English curriculum with a team of other teachers. So I will be talking about that aspect later, but that is who I am from the teacher standpoint, the Robotel standpoint. And then here is my family. Another reason that I'm so passionate about languages is I have my husband, Fabian, is from Germany. So in our home, we do speak German and English, and our 3 children are being raised bilingually. And then there's just a couple pictures of me with my students in my classroom, and then having the opportunity to take them to Germany and have them immersed in the language. I loved doing that. And if that is not an opportunity for them to actually be immersed, how can we get our students speaking even more while something like this platform is really an option? So a little bit about our company. We have been around since 1984. And why I think that's important to bring up is that we all find ourselves in a very unique situation right now. And whether it's the fact that you're looking for a solution just short term, or what we hope is that you're looking more for a solution long-term, because we don't want your efforts to be put in to something now where then you go back to school or your normal environment, and then, everything that you have, you feel like you can't use. This is something that can be integrated inside, outside of the classroom. And the point that we've been around since 1984 means that this isn't just something we dreamt up in the past few weeks as everything has been happening in our world. This has been something that we've been doing long before it was a need. It was something that we felt very strongly about, and we saw the need for it. And now it is a need that, unfortunately, teachers and students find themselves scrambling to find. So the other things that I think are very valuable about Robotel is that not only that we've been in business for 36 years, or we will be celebrating our 36th year, but we are in over 89 countries around the world. We have over 10,000 installations. So this isn't, something that will be brand new to us. If you are trying it, we're really going to stand beside you and walk beside you on this process. And then my favorite aspect, because obviously I'm a lover of language learning, is that as a company as a whole, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. And we speak together collectively 22 languages. Yes, some of those are computer programming languages, but I think that those are languages nonetheless. And so it's obvious that we're very passionate about what it is that we do, because we all believe it. And every single person on our team is either bilingual or trilingual. So our purpose is to offer solutions for language teachers and for students. And what it comes down to is that we value languages, and we value what you do as teachers, and trying to instill that passion and open doors for students by helping them learn another language. So we have a cloud-based language teaching opportunity, which will allow you to go beyond the traditional classroom environment. So this opportunity doesn't matter where you are. If you are in your classroom teaching, this will still allow the students to be learning outside of the classroom and go beyond the traditional classroom environment, where they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to be speaking or doing a speaking activity outside of the classroom. They now have that opportunity with our platform. So this really allows students to speak, comprehend, and reflect at a much different level than anything I've ever seen before. And this is speaking from 10 years of experience not having the platform, and then 2 years of experience in my classroom where I saw my students using this platform. The amount of speaking, comprehension, and reflection and ownership that my students were taking with their language, it was astounding. And their speaking ability, their grades, their test scores, it all showed it. But what I cared most about was their communication skills showed it, and their confidence. It was such a great thing to see my students go through that process in those 2 years. So what are the products that we have to offer? The one that I'm going to be showcasing today is called our SmartClass HUB. So our SmartClass HUB is a digital language teaching platform that has 20 activity templates for your curriculum already there, and all you need to do is put your curriculum in and put some sort of a media file, and then put some sort of a stimulus that you would like your students to be doing. So do you want them to be writing or speaking? And then we've got these great templates where 9 of them are actually auto-graded. So if you're going to hear me say any word over and over in this webinar, it's the word time. You are going to save so much time, and the students are going to have a lot more time speaking the language. So, and the beautiful part about it is that it also can be done in any language. So our system supports any language, and you are just putting your information in there. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. Our other 2 products that I just quickly want to tell you about, so that you can be thinking about these, for later on. We do have a SmartClass Live, which is an interactive classroom management platform. So this is for something when you are back in the classroom or it's live and you have your students there with you. And then the next one is another webinar that I will be showcasing for you is our SmartClass content. It is right now we have a Let's Talk English full curriculum from A1 to B2, and that is something I'll explain in a minute, where it has 2,500 exercises, and 50% of those exercises they're auto-graded by our system. We do have some other freebies to be giving out today for you showing up to this webinar. We have gone ahead and created pronunciation activities and simple image open recording activities for you to be using, and I will give you that promotional offer at the end of this, where you'll have access to all that at a click of a button. So for those of you that are English teachers, I want to invite you to come back and listen to that webinar, but a quick overview of our English curriculum. It is complete ESL, EFL English curriculum. It's based on the Common European Framework. So it has those proficiency standards for beginner through that advanced intermediate. We have all the different skill sets of language learning with the reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. It is based on an integral vocabulary with then grammar elements into a thematic unit. And you have 2,500 activities already created for you that you can just pick through and assign as either supplemental or whole curriculum. And then you can also easily customize and build your own activities into that already. And I think that is just such a huge point in general from a teacher who had a textbook but was never fully satisfied. I was constantly searching for other resources, and I was tired of having to memorize passwords and usernames and how to use each different platform, and then coach my students on how to use that platform, and then the excuses that came that they couldn't find it or they didn't know how to upload things, and the lack of organization. It was just all over the place. And I was so grateful when I finally found Robotel SmartClass HUB, because it brought it all into one place, and it was so easy that I just took off running with it and completely transformed my teaching. So without further ado, I want to give you that sneak peek into what it would look like and how I would go about building a lesson and just some ideas. And then obviously during that time, it will be showing you just some of the activity capabilities that we have. So I will go ahead and share my screen with you. And then on the side, I have a little lesson plan. So if you see me copying and pasting, that's just what I'm doing instead of having to take your time with me writing and watching me type, because everyone knows you can't type when you're under pressure. So when you log into our SmartClass HUB, the first thing that you'll see are all the courses and classes that you're going to create. And you obviously, when you first download, you won't have these, but at a touch of a button, you'll easily be able to go create a new class and a new course. And we have great videos to be able to walk you through that, but it is very navigationable so that you will, you'll be prompted to do something and you can easily see what it is that you're supposed to do. So for this one, we're going to go in and work with my distance teaching SmartClass HUB class. And then it always prompts you with what is it that you would like to do. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start planning for my first lesson using this SmartClass HUB. Now, over here, when you clicked on Create Activities, the first thing you need to do is have some sort of a media file. So whether you have audio files already from your textbook or you found them somewhere and you're going to upload an audio file, a video file, a PDF. So if you have any type of Word or text document and you just save it as a PDF, you would upload the PDF here. And then of course, the easiest one is just uploading a picture. I always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. The activities that I have done with my students where I just put a picture in and their creative juices just start flowing and they just start speaking or writing, whatever you want them to do. I love just throwing a picture in there. And again, we have all those freebies at the end with a bunch of pictures uploaded for you to be assigning your students on all sorts of different topics. So the last three are ones that I love because let's face it, as teachers, we're very creative, we're very resourceful, but sometimes we can't find what it is that we have in mind or that we're looking for. So we also have 3 functions where you can author your own media file. So you could go in and just type a little text. So I've done paragraphs that my students need to just read and, focus on pronunciation, or I've, authored grammar things where my students have to do certain things with that text. But I really like that PDF function because I can make it look much prettier, like a worksheet or whatever. So real simple authoring text though, you just type and save. Recording an audio file, huge. How many times do I wish that my textbook would have had a specific conversation or a specific, question and answer where my students could respond and do a mock conversation. So being able to record your own audio at a couple clicks of a button it really was transformative for me. I loved this aspect and would do this weekly. And then the next one is recording a video. And this is the one I'm going to start with because this is what I as a teacher would do first and foremost for any lesson that I'm doing. So if I click on this, you're going to see really funny, a fuzzy video because the webinar is using my webcam, but I'm just going to show you what it would look like. You would go and you would type in a title of what you want to save. You'd hit record, you can play to see if you like your recording, you can erase it, try again, and then you would simply save. So I'm going to cancel because I've already gone ahead and I've recorded this media file so that you could see it and actually understand what it would potentially look like. Now, I could have also had a whiteboard behind me where I was writing notes and giving them lecture notes. You could be creative and do it on a window with an expo marker. You could have a big piece of paper. Whatever it is that you need to do to get your notes to your students, go for it. And I just like using the video aspect because then it really feels to my students like they're there getting a lecture from me. So as you can see, So I just recorded myself explaining what my expectations were for the day, what I wanted them to do as far as the activities. And, I could talk about any due dates that they had, give any notes, give any, information on upcoming projects or tests. So that would be my lecture. And now I have to go and create that activity of what I want my students to do with it so that it can be put into a folder where my students can interact with it. Right now, this is just a video. What do I want my students to do with it? So first thing, you can always rename. So I just called this day one lecture, but for my students, I'm going to write number one because it's going to be the first thing I want them to watch. And I'm just going to say class notes, right? Or I could call it class lecture. And then what do I want my students to do with it? These I'll go a little more into depth when we get into the actual activities. Beside this one, all I really want them to do is view it. I don't want them to write anything, respond, anything like that. So I could have made a video and asked them questions like, what'd you do on the weekend? And I could have a video of myself asking that instead. And then, I could have had them speak and give me an answer to that. So I'm just going to have them watch it so they know what is happening. So I could say, watch the video. And explaining the lesson and expectations. So that would be it. I'm going to hit close, and then you see over here that my activity is created. It's a viewing activity, okay, that came from my day one lecture. So I already have my first activity created. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you, all right, so if I was working on, let's pretend I'm going to work on a vocabulary unit. What would be some things that I would have my students do from afar with a vocabulary unit? So this is going to be day one. They haven't learned this vocabulary yet. What can I do? So I would go in and I am going to upload a PDF because I have my vocabulary list here. And I always like the little icons, how it reminds me of what kind of a file it is, in case you've named things in a way where this would be like, chapter 1, section 1 vocabulary, but then I also had an image with that same title. It kind of prompts you to know what type of a media file it is. So I have the vocab list here. So I'm going to go ahead and create an actual activity with it. And you can either double click on it, or you can grab the icon and pull it over to the class, to the activity section. Either one of those will open that activity wizard for you. So my students don't need to know this aspect. I'm going to say vocabulary list. I'm going to call it chapter 1, section 2, just so that they know where we are. And I already was smart in saving. I knew this was going to be the second thing I wanted them to take a look at. So now the question is, what do I want them to do with it? So I could go and easily have them do a speaking where they have to say all these words, or maybe I would have recorded myself saying the words and they'd have to repeat after me, so on and so forth. I'm going to get them just to write the words at this point because that's the next activity we have here. So when I have a writing activity, I have a couple options with the writing activity. I have an open text where it literally is just a box where they can just write. So they can repeat words by, typing the different words a couple times, working on spelling. They could have to use 10 of these words to make a story. There'd be a lot of different options that I have. And then there's also something called a question and answer. So this is a good one for an image, a video, a listening, where you just put in a question that they need to answer, and then they just give their short answer response. So obviously neither of these would be graded by our system. These would be ones that you need to go ahead and that needs your eyes and your ears from a teaching perspective. Okay. Really quickly, because we are going to get to these other ones. I don't know if I'm going to have time to showcase many of these. So I just need to emphasize the beautiful part of this button. It's called quizzes. It doesn't mean you need to grade it like a quiz or a test, but we call it quizzes because our system grades it. So you have 8 activities here, and then also the pronunciation activity is graded by our system too, that are all graded. Where if you wanted to assign it and then just get immediate feedback, have your students get immediate feedback, you would just make this activity and then the student would submit it, go back into it, and they'd have immediate feedback as to how they did. So these are phenomenal activities, pardon me. And we don't just have multiple choice and fill in the blanks with which a lot of platforms have. We really know and understand what it takes to teach a language. We know the creativity that you put to, keep your kids motivated, keep them going. We know that the more they do and the more encouraged they are with activities, that, the better their output's going to be. So we have things like text match, image match, category matches. So this one's kind of more like a chart, and so it's great with listening activities. You also have them fill in the chart instead of just filling in the blanks. So I loved doing this with listening activities and checking for real comprehension. And then we have all these great jumbles. So you can, just jumble up the letters to work on spelling. You can jumble up words to work on grammar and word order. And then you can jumble up full sentences to work on like conversational order or chronological order. But we have thought about all the activities we love to do in our classroom, and we have made templates for them for you to easily fill in and be able to execute with your students. So again, these are all auto-graded. So the amount of effort it's going to take for you to put it in, think about all the time you're going to save by not having to look at every single answer from every single one of your students. And one of the best parts is when you do go back into the classroom and you have a new class, all of these activities you create stay in the folders year after year after year for you to use and assign. And once they're created, unless you're editing them or you found another picture you wanted to use, there's no reason that you can't just keep using them time and again, and you don't have to recreate them. And they're just there for you in this beautiful organizational way year after year. I can't stress that enough because it saves what again? That word time. We want to save your time because I know how much time I felt like I didn't have it as a teacher, and that feedback aspect is so important for students. So let us help you by saving you time with these activities. So I would always suggest assigning some of those quizzes and then a couple activities that need your eyes and your ears and your expertise of language to give it a nice balance. So we're going to work with one that's just a simple open text. Okay. And what I would tell my students is I would just say, here are your new vocabulary words for this chapter. And I could say, write each word 5 times. If it's an A1 level, getting them to practice the spelling, really important. If it is more of a B2, or level 4, you might want to say, come up with a story that uses these words. So you can really tweak it and fine tune it and differentiate it however it is that you want to. So from the student point of view, let me just quickly show you what this would look like. So they would open it, they would see their PDF, they can zoom in if they're having trouble reading, they see their instructions, and then they would go and they would follow the instructions and they would just type 5 times. And then they would continue to the next one. So not anything, very difficult, but they need to know how to spell their words in order to be able to use them. So they would just keep going. Or if I wanted them to write a story, I could, talk about making a recipe and, and it would be more of a story format. So I am done with an open text, and now I have 2 activities ready to go. So the next one that I would do, because I'm very adamant about the biggest aspect of our platform being that your students will speak 10 times more than they're able to speak in an average class, because no student can hide. Every student has to complete this. They're going to be more confident in the comfort of their home or in a classroom when not everyone is staring at them and looking at them to give a response. They have some time to think and reflect, and they're in control of those buttons, and they can erase if they really think they sounded awful or if they conjugated a verb incorrectly. This is about practice. And I'll show you a couple tricks. If you are looking to make it an assessment, you can just add a timer so that they don't have as much time to be practicing and changing things. So the next one is an open recording. And again, I talked about how much I love the image aspect. So I'm going to open up an image for you. And I'm going to quickly just show you how easy it is working with images to go and create a speaking activity. So they don't necessarily need to know that it's an open recording. I could, I could call it something else and say record a story. Okay. And I'm going to do the speaking. And right now, my only option is open recording. There's nothing else that they can do because I don't have an audio stimulus. I don't have a listening coming in, so they can't interact with it with our other two options. So it doesn't give us that prompt. So I'm going to create an open recording. And I need to give my instructions to the students. And again, depending upon what level your student is, you might give them a different instructions. So if it was earlier level, I might say something about like, what vegetables do you see, or just say as much as possible about this image. What words or phrases do you know? What is happening? Using only the present tense. But for my, further along students, I want them to use different tenses. So I'm going to say what has happened. Give me a backstory to what this, what's going on with this guy. Where did he buy his fruits and vegetables? Who's he talking to? Is he looking at a recipe? Give me some story, some background. And then what is happening? Okay, what is he currently doing? And then what will happen? What's going to be the outcome of this? Is someone going to be walking in and he cooked, dinner for his mom for Mother's Day? Or what does that look like? But the creativity that I got from my students when I would do something like this, it was fun for me as a teacher. Instead of, having this on the board and having each student only be able to give me one sentence about an image, every student was able to take this as far as they wanted to. So we all know there's certain students that will only give us 2 sentences. So if you wanted to, you could say, talk for at least a minute, and you could put a timer on here, or you could say, you have to say at least 10 sentences. You could give specific grammar things, use at least 10 adjectives. So you really can make these instructions however you want to tweak them. And now I've got record a story. The next one I'm going to show you is a pronunciation. So now I'm going to have my students working with some pronunciation of these vocab words. Okay, so this was just kind of to see some of their background knowledge. I'll give them this test again probably where I grade it more. This is just to see what they're able to use, what words they already know, and then later to see how much they grow with this vocabulary. So now I'm going to do pronunciation, and I'm going to upload an image. And you always need to have some sort of media file, some sort of stimulus coming in. So again, if you don't have anything you want to upload, you can always just author a text document and put the instructions there. So this one is my recipe for pronunciation. Again, one of my favorite activities because 1, they're speaking, but 2, they get immediate feedback from our system since it's graded. So I'm just going to say pronunciation of sentences. And it's pronunciation of sentences using our new vocabulary words. Okay. Since this is the next one here, I'll just quickly say that if you wanted your students to record themselves answering with a video, so this is great for American Sign Language, or if you're really focusing on pronunciation and want to see the way your students are, moving their mouth for pronunciation, you can always record a video to make it a little more personal, especially right now, since you can't see your students the way you used to. I know there's some great video aspects out there, but it's you having all 30 students at once. Or all, 20 or 40 or 50. I mean, if you're professors, lots of students. So this allows you, if you would record yourself and then you'd make your students record a video back, it would be like a one-on-one conversation where you can be seeing them. So, but we're going to go to our pronunciation. You can choose to have your students listen. And it's listening to an AI, artificial intelligence interpretation of the sentences and the words. You can have your students speak. I loved doing this for an assessment at the end of a unit to see how they could pronounce full sentences using vocabulary that they've just learned. Or if it's just practice, you can have them do a listen and speak. And then you click on whatever language it is you're teaching. So I was a German teacher, so I might click on German. But I just want to show you, even with English, how many different types of dialects or, different options we have for languages. And if you're a Spanish teacher, very similar, because not all the languages sound the same. So there's different accents, and you can pick which one you want to have your students interact with. So I'm going to do English United States because that's where I am. And I'm teaching students how to speak English. Okay, so then the instructions I'm going to give my students is pronounce sentences explaining how to make this recipe. So I'm going to be helping them, walk through some of those chronological words like first and getting used to giving commands. So using the command form of a verb, so it doesn't have to just be working on pronunciation. It can be getting them used to saying native sentences correctly and just getting them used to that word order and practicing it. Okay, and I'm just going to put in a few sentences so that you don't have to sit and watch me do all of this, but you can keep going with how many sentences you want to do. My students can zoom again. And I'm going to show you what this would look like. And my students would then just click on a sentence that they want to interact with, and then they would listen. They would then be able to click and record themselves and get feedback. So I'll show you one of those real quick from the student perspective. I think my microphone is working. So they would listen and they would hear the AI saying, then mix all of the oils together. Then mix all of the oils together. Okay, and then it would give them some sort of a feedback as to how they did. So if they didn't do well, they would have the chance to just go and click and talk again to get a new score. Sorry about that. My microphone isn't loud enough for you guys to hear. So when they were all done, they would just click on a button up here that says submit my exercise, and then they would have immediate feedback and something that's already graded that they have learned from, that you didn't have to have your eyes on. So that's another great activity. So you can put all sorts of vocab stuff in there for you, or even grammar concepts to get them practicing. And then I want to show you, I had two more to show you, but I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time to show you how the ease of grading. And I think that's a really important part, because right now you're being bombarded with all these different options and trying to learn all these new technologies and platforms and still teach your students. So I just want to show you the ease of use, that this doesn't have to be overwhelming at a couple clicks of a button. Look, I've already, made 4 activities. I'm going to now make a 5th one for you, but that you would be able to easily send these out to your students, assign them, they would do them, and you'd easily be able to grade them and just keep going with teaching as if it's almost normal, right? So the next one is a recording. I'm going to record myself so you can see what that would potentially look like. And I am going to do, I'm going to call it favorite recipe. And this is my fifth activity. So I'm going to record myself asking a few questions, so bear with me. I'll keep it short. What is your favorite recipe to make? What ingredients are in the recipe? Describe how to make this recipe. And I'd hit stop. I always press play so that I can see if my students will be able to hear me, because if not, then I'll erase and I'll try again. What is your favorite recipe to make? I hope you can hear that. My microphone is, again, my microphone's being used by the webinar jam, so it might conflict a little bit. So if you heard something, great. I'm going to save it. Sounded good enough volume-wise to me. So now it will save here in my media area, and then I will just bring it over to my exercise area so I can create something with it. And I want them to answer questions about favorite recipe. Okay. And I'm going to have them do a speaking. So now what you see are a couple different options, because we have information coming in as an audio. We can therefore put information out as an audio with this. So we're going to do a segmented recording. And what this means is that our system will go and create these segments. You break up the audio and you input pauses. Our system inputs pauses for you to have your students to either repeat what you said or respond to what you say. Okay, if I wanted, I could put a pretty picture up here about a recipe, just so it doesn't look so bland, just by hitting that plus button. And then my instructions for my students would be respond to the questions. Okay, and you can make that as elaborate as you want. How you make this is you add a segment where you want the pause to be given to your students to respond to. What is your favorite recipe to
ingredients are in the recipe? Describe how to make this recipe.
And then that would be it. This last one I don't have to do because it automatically separates. That last one is its own segment. So you can see your segments here. I always click this so that my students can say when they're done. So I could even tell them click done to move on to the next one. If you are just having them repeat things and it doesn't matter, they don't have to control the length of time that they have to respond, then you don't need to press that. I just think it's a great function. So let's hit preview just so you can see what it would look like from a student point of view. So they could hit play and just play the blue line to hear what the questions were first. If you wanted them to, you could put that in the instructions. When they're ready to record, it would just play.
What is your favorite recipe to make?
Then when they see this, they're recording. My favorite recipe to make is tacos. And I could keep going and elaborate as long as this recording is telling me I still have room.
What ingredients are in the recipe?
All sorts of ingredients. That's why I love it. They're easy to make so that it's perfect to your taste buds.
Describe how to make this recipe.
And so you do a lot of different chopping and throwing things together. Just to speed that up a little bit, a couple things that I love about this activity. As a teacher, how much would you appreciate not having to sit and listen to your own voice over and over? You can hit play with the green button.
See this? They're recording. My favorite recipe to make is tacos.
And all that you need to do is just listen to what your student said instead of having to sit and wait for you to also answer the question. So I love that aspect where you can just listen to the one. And then another thing that I love is that a student can really reflect on this. They can play. And then if they wanted to just re-record one of them, they could click on the one they want to re-record.
What ingredients are in the recipe?
There are lots of different ingredients, and I could go on and expand further and further. But the reflection that happens when then they're able to analyze what they said, it's astounding. Many kids are so nervous when they're speaking another language that they don't get that time to reflect because, one, they don't even remember what they said because they were so nervous, or two, they truly just can't remember what it is they said, or if they conjugated the verb correctly, or if they had the correct word order. So them being able to play and listen to themselves is huge. I remember I got to do that in my German class when I was taking German as a student, and I was using these old cassette players. So, there was no like easy rewind and erase button. So this aspect it truly is one of those things that help my students transform their language learning. So that concludes a few of my favorites that I wanted to showcase to you. Now what I wanted to do is just quickly show you what you would do with them now that you've made them. You would want to go in and figure out some sort of a folder system of how you want to name these. So I know it's day one of what it is that I'm doing. So I decided to name it Chapter 1, Section 2, Day 1. You could name it in any different way. If it was week 10, day 1, or if you're breaking it down by, this is the vocabulary unit of Chapter 1, Section 2. So I just wanted to give you a couple ideas of how to organize your folders. Then what you do is whatever activities you want to assign all at once, you put in the folder. Now, as you can see, when I drag and drop, if I just go like this and put it in, it's going to put that activity right up on top. I have them numbered for a reason, so I could leave them. My students would know what they're supposed to do, but you also can easily go in and change the order just by making sure that the folder you want is green and that you've dropped it underneath the actual activity you want it to go under. But be careful if you go down this far that you don't accidentally, put it into a different folder. It's whatever folder is green, that's the folder it's going to go into. Once they're all in, what you would do is you would click this folder status. You would change it to be available for your students. And just like that, when it turns green, it means that it has communicated with the platform from the student side, and your students would now be able to go in and do all of these activities while you go about your day. So great functionalities all around that I can't express enough how much I enjoyed using this. The time-saving aspects, the reflection for my students, the ease of use was great. So if you forgot to add one, you could go and you could make it unassigned, And then, you could add a couple more activities in. If you didn't want your students to see it anymore, you could make it unavailable. But we have videos to show you how to do all that kind of stuff, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you as if I'm going on to day 2. And I assigned a vocabulary image match, a dictation activity, a recipe video, just to, show you a couple different things that could be done. But I want to show you the grading aspect. So I had assigned these yesterday to my students and had them do them. So I am going to show you the vocabulary image match because this is one that our system grades for you. So if I went into any of those graded activities, what I would open and see are a couple different things. So I like to go up to my select student and I can see who has it done right away. So Danny didn't get to it. So I'm going to follow up with an email or reach out to her, but it automatically grades them. Erin is always graded a language 100%. That makes a lot of sense. Fabian's also normally very good. So a 36% alarms me. Same thing with Hannah. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to check those students just to see where they got mixed up. And if it was something maybe on my end, do I give them a little percentage point back? Do I have to change this activity? But as you can see, anything green means it was good. Anything red means it wasn't. So I could go into, Fabian's and take a look at anything he got wrong. And it looks like he got a couple of the same ones wrong as Hannah. So if I wanted to, I could go in and I could change this grade. Or, I could put, instead of a percentage, I could transfer that into points or into a letter grade or a number grade, whatever it is that you use, so that it can easily then go into your grade book without you having to think about what a 36% means. And then I could give feedback, slow down, or did you study, or, what do you think happened? And then I'd hit save, and this would be feedback that he would get. I could also give a recording, and I really like that aspect, so I don't have to write everything down. Could say, hi, Fabian, it's not like you to get a 36% on things. I'm wondering if you were rushing or if you misunderstood what was happening. But let's make sure that we talk about this so that you can move forward and, we can know what happened. I could hit stop. I could hit play to listen to myself. And then when I was satisfied, I could hit save. So not only does he get, a written feedback, but, if they're working with pronunciation, you can, give examples on how to pronounce things, or, be able to give just more informative feedback to your student and also save you time. So if I wanted to, I could go through the other students and quickly grade those as well and make changes. But I love this viewpoint, because if I would go and change them all, I could literally just go in my grade book then and then mark the grades from just looking at this screen instead of having to open up all the students' activities. So the other one I'm going to show you is one that would need my attention. So this was a recording, and again, I'm going to try to turn my volume up, but if I do, I hope you don't get any feedback, and I hope you can actually hear what's happening with this one. But so what I decided to do with this one is a recording. So I just did a continuous recording where they're just watching this video and they're saying what they see in this video. So I can go and select a student, see who did it. Whoops, and it looks like I was testing it out, and it looks like my grade stayed there. So let me just save this real quick so you see it as nothing. And I'm going to listen to, what Erin had to say about this. So I'm not going to listen to anything else, just hers. Yeah. Sorry with the sound, it's hard to hear, but she's telling all the different ingredients that are here, and what would have to happen in order for this recipe to be made. So she did a great job. So I'm going to go ahead and give her a grade. I'm going to tell her an A. Great use of vocabulary. I'm going to tell her great job, and then here I can give more feedback. So I'd save the written grade, and then I might say, hi, Erin, great use of vocabulary. Heard a couple different tenses in there, all in 12 seconds. So I'm really proud of you for how you did this recording. Well done. Okay, then I could hit save, and like that, I have graded an activity. So imagine the ease of use of going through and just watching the ones you need to, letting our system grade the ones that you don't need to be a part of, or just looking at ones that maybe doesn't seem quite right, so you can go and reflect on which ones the students got wrong and why they got them wrong, an activity that you may need to follow up with because of you seeing the ones they got wrong. Just a lot of information that can come from this without you having to spend as much time as normal to make that happen. So that would be how I go and grade. So I hope that this makes you excited. If it looks overwhelming to any of you because the idea of having to create activities is something that you're not comfortable with, know that on our side, we are trying to support as much as possible. We've got a bunch of great videos in our free access, which you hopefully have by now, so that you are able to literally walk through and learn how to use the templates, learn some of those ins and outs. We really want you to be successful using this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to come back to what we were discussing, which is, what do we do about this? Now that you know this, how can you have access to it? How can you use it further? Hopefully you've signed up for our free access already. If you haven't, please make sure that you're following closely, you're taking screenshots, doing what you need to do so you know how to get access to it. So a couple reflections on how this solution could be for you. Everything in one place makes it easy for you and the students. It improves accountability for your students completing all activities, especially now. You don't have to send these extra checklists. It's just all there. They're not searching for it in all sorts of places that get buried. Auto grading of 9 activity templates, it frees up a lot of your time, and these templates are really easy to use, allows more time for students to practice speaking, which as a language teacher, I don't know how many of you are doing it right now. How are you getting them to speak and not just sitting and writing? So props to you for trying whatever it is that you're doing. Keep up the good work. We know how difficult this time is, and we're just here to support you. Definitely our platform increases comprehension of the language because your students can stop, rewind, re-listen to things, erase things. They're in control of their learning, and they are going to grow leaps and bounds because of that. Encourages your students to reflect and take ownership. Same concept. They're not just a passive learner. They become a very active learner in their language journey. And what more could a student want or a teacher want? And then all of your media files and activities are going to be there year after year, organized and able for you to edit them. This part is so important because, again, if you hopped on late and you didn't hear me say this before, or if you are still wondering if this is a solution that could be for you, this isn't something that is a short-term only concept. It is really something that could transform your teaching even when you're back in the classroom. So the time you spend getting to know this platform now isn't going to be thrown out the window when you hop in to the classroom. It's so affordable. It's less than a workbook for a student, and you can do so many more active things than the student just writing in a workbook. So this really is a solution that you could be looking for now, but that could be answering a lot of your questions and challenges as a teacher, even when you're back in the classroom. So how do you try this? If you haven't signed up for that free access, please write this down, roboteltrial.com. This is going to be your landing page where you are going to go on and you're going to see how to download this, how to install it, how to use it, how to create it, activities, grade them, all of these things. But because you showed up to this one, we are going to offer you something even better where we're going to show you how. We'll send you a video, and in here you'll see an offer pop up that our Robotel support is probably going to be putting up right now, that you will be able to find activities that we've created in different languages for you. We've given instructions, and you'll be able to tweak those instructions, add to them, whatever it is that you want to do. But you have to be on this trial in order to get our platform, and then also to know how to get your students to get the platform. Okay, so please go and do this, and know that that's not the end of the road for us. We are doing other webinars. I'm going to be doing one on Let's Talk English. You have all these different videos. But we have something that we're really excited about, and we hope to see people showing up to these. We are doing live support sessions. So if you find yourself trying to get free access and there's a technological problem, log on. We have certain times for this where you can go on and ask our tech people, to help walk you through that. Or if you want to create a specific activity or you don't know how to use something, we are going to be in there live answering questions so that you can go and use this and be successful with it now. If you still have questions, even beyond those two things, we have an educational support email at webinars@robotel.com, and then technical support at service@robotel.com. So if you can't hop on live, or that's not with the environment you're looking for, go ahead and write to them. We have some wonderful support people behind the scenes, as you can see here. We have such a great passionate group of language learners and language speakers and language educators. So please take advantage of all the support that we have to offer, because we really are in this to serve you and help you through this time, so that it's not something that you look back on and think that you lost a couple months of teaching, but that you really were able to move forward through this and find a solution, not just for now, but also for later, that you can be excited about and that your students can really use and learn. If you have other questions, you might want to just check out our FAQ.robotel.com/knowledge, because we do have a great knowledge base of FAQs sitting there waiting for you. I could go and talk about this forever because I'm so passionate about what it did for my students and my teaching. I didn't think that after 10 years I would find something that would make me transcend what I already thought I was doing as a good job in my teaching career. So know that this, although technology can sometimes be scary, this is a complete solution all around, that you're not alone if you're trying it. So take care, be well, and hope to see you at some of these live supports, or at least looking at all our videos and trying out our platform at Robotel. So take care. Thanks so much for stopping by.